Good morning, Peter here. As we continue along in our Lenten reading of the Gospel according to Mark, we have a video today which is going to be focused on a reading from the 6th chapter, verses 1 through 6. And if you want to read that passage before watching this video, you can put me on pause and just click on the link that is directly above the video and read the passage and then start this up again. But if you're ready to go, let's dive in. In this particular story, we have Jesus returning to his hometown of Nazareth, and things really don't go well at all. He makes an interesting observation that prophets are not without honor except in their own hometown, among their own kin, and in their own house. And this is a saying that you may have heard somewhere along the line. Jesus didn't make it up. He's actually quoting from the Hebrew scriptures. But it gets to this idea that, well, a person can really lack authority or not be viewed with the authority that they have earned out in the world when they go home. Because when you go home, people know you a long time. They saw you grow up, and they can tend to be a little astounded, particularly if you've gone out and have been doing the kinds of things that Jesus has been doing. He's built a tremendous ministry so far, really quite quickly. He's been healing people. He's been teaching with authority. And so when he goes back to Nazareth, we are naturally quite interested in how he's going to be received. I mean, shouldn't he be welcomed home with joy? Shouldn't there be something of a parade? Shouldn't people be just amazed at what he has gone out into the world and what he is accomplishing? Well, we might expect that, but that's not what happens. Instead, the minute he starts teaching with authority, we are told the people in his hometown synagogue where he was teaching are astounded, meaning they recognize the authority with which he is teaching. But they begin to grumble among themselves, and they want to know where he's come up with this insight and what is the basis upon which he is exercising this kind of authority. They grumble among themselves. I mean, after all, he's a carpenter. And the word here means something more of a craftsman. Which apparently was the profession that Jesus had growing up and during his time in Nazareth as a young man. He was engaged in a very common, humble trade. And so they just can't get past that. They say, this is Jesus, his mother's Mary, we know her, we know his brothers, we know his sisters. And so they take offense at him. And I think what this story lifts up, first and foremost, is that it's so easy for us not to see the person that is right in front of us when we choose to be guided by our preconceptions rather than to acknowledge what we see and what we hear, what's right there in front of us. And because the people in Jesus' hometown could not put aside their preconceptions of him, they can't experience the power of his ministry. And they certainly are not open for him to perform any kind of miracles, because the miracles that Jesus performed were always related to the faith that people brought and their expectation and hope that he could heal them. And that's really the second point too, and that is that Jesus laments that there's no faith here. There's really no fertile ground for him to carry out a healing ministry because the people in his hometown simply lack faith. And because they lack faith, he can't do anything. And I think that's a good reminder to us that when we come to Jesus and when we earnestly and openly expect that he can bring healing and hope into our lives, that's the precursor to him being able to get to work, to bring new things into our lives. So I think this story invites us to consider whether maybe we bring preconceptions or prior opinions about who Jesus is and what he can accomplish in our life today, and that can be a limiter. Or instead, are we coming with a sense of faith that this Jesus, who rose again from the dead, who has committed himself to us completely and fully, who has promised us a new life that leads to eternal life, that he is ready and able to work in powerful ways in our lives. If we're open to that in faith, then that creates the kind of ground, fertile ground, where wonderful things can take root in our lives that Jesus wants to bring. So I hope you ponder this a little bit today and consider perhaps your own preconceptions about Jesus and the faith that you bring to any expectation of healing and hope that he can bring to your life. And have a wonderful day.